Hey there, this is your friendly mad scientist of bonsai. We're just about at year's end, huh? And I don't have anything in particular to say, but I hadn't been around in a while, been so busy. But I just kind of want to show you how the season is ending and what I'm doing to kind of get ready in a certain area. This is a trident maple, root over rock. I just wanted to show the color on this. Aside from that, let's go around to the front. And like I said, we're pretty much at the year's end, and I am prepping to get my tender items into the greenhouse. And oh, you want to see that? That's a root over rock Chinese sweet plum, Sajertia thesan. Anyway, yeah, I've been really busy with this stuff and other endeavors. And like I said, I kind of want to show you what I'm doing here for tender plants, things that have to go into a greenhouse for protection. But along with that, there's no sense in not showing you some certain other things. This is a Japanese green maple. I call this my vase or upside down tree because it's much wider at the bottom. Yesterday I just put a leverage on the bottom there. You can see kind of right along the bottom of that lower branch. That's a piece of hard metal that I'm trying to lower that branch with, so I've got it lashed to itself. And I did run a piece of wire underneath the pot to kind of hold steady the center portion about right there of that. And so eventually, hopefully, I'll get that lowered probably another 5 to 6 inches on this end. And I don't really want that bowl right there to touch the ground, but you know, just as close as I can get that to the surface of the soil and lower this a bit more. Hopefully I can get it below this branch, which I'll be pulling this down a little more also. And an odd thing, all year this top is not leafed out. Okay, it's had buds and the buds are strong and they look well, but it's not leafed out all year, which is not a big issue because even if I needed to take those off, I can redesign the apex out of this section right here. But again, here we go. I'm going to show you my well, part of the collection of bougainvilleas. If you remember the video where I was doing air layering and taking cuttings, this is the base, the main part of the bougainvillea. Okay, so here we have it, and I've got new strong shoots coming out here and there. I've cut it back here probably 3 weeks to a month ago, but it's developing its main leader really nicely. And once I get another, probably that to an inch or so, I'll be cutting that back and working from that to create my branching. And again, the back branch here going out that way will be cut back also to develop ramification in it. And again, bougainvillea, easy to work with. Just be bold and daring. This is an air layer part out of the top of that we took off probably like what one of the holidays after Easter or something like that, Labor Day or something, Memorial Day, whichever day. But anyway, had it been Memorial Day, that was an air layer. But I have, just to say, I have dozens and dozens, you know, of rooted cuttings that I've taken from the same plant in the same year. Okay, so once you get started, that's a good size cutting right there, but I have some smaller and some larger, all from the same plant. And that right there is a rooted cutting, also pretty tall. That's the total length of that going that way is about 36 inches, and the girth at the base there is about 3/4 to an inch. Okay, and just more of the cuttings. I've created a root over rock. This has been on this a month now, and you can't see it through the plastic, but some of the surface roots are exposed to the rock now. This is actually partially in the rock. I've carved out a crevice in the rock to create a soil pocket to help the plant stabilize, and it's easier for me to grow it that way rather than trying to make all of the roots grow on the surface of that. This gives an extra little stability, and the plant will never suffer. This is another root over rock, and hopefully you can see that, but that'll have a wide splayed canopy over top of the precipice of that rock. And again, I've carved out a niche in the rock, and that's why you see what I call my bonsai diaper. The plastic does not cover the entire rock because I don't need it to. All I need it to do is to cover that area where I hope that I'll get surface roots coming down the side of that rock. And so I'll have rock roots inside of the rock and roots on the outside of it. And of course my intent is to have it to wrap around lower than coming across the surface here. So there's soil underneath the plastic in the cavern that I carved out and on the surface of the rock. And more cuttings right there. That right there is about 3/4 of an inch also, and I've recently cut it back to get it prepped for next season. And like I said, I have dozens of pots, these gallon pots of cuttings. I have even more smaller cuttings, little bitty pieces like this, you know, just really small starters. And Bougainvillea is easy, but now that we're at the end of the season, you're not going to get very much root development if you're trying to do rooted cuttings or air layers. So if you do take them right now, you're going to need to put some heat on your plant, and that means putting it in a greenhouse or creating an environment. You know, 4 sticks in the ground and put some plastic over it, as long as you can get the heat and the humidity up. And I would say put some black plastic on the bottom, on the ground, the floor, or whatever creation you make. It's not complicated. It doesn't take a lot, but you have to build up the heat now that things are getting cooler. Here, and this is Northwest Florida, Gulf Coast side, our night temperature is in the upper 40s and to the mid 50s. Right now at about 10:30 in the morning, we're just now approaching 60 degrees or so. I mean, it's nice out here, but still with the cooler temperatures, you're not going to get much rooting. Okay, now it is a good time to prep hardwood like trident maples and elms, which I am doing, but that's a different story. We're talking about bougainvilleas or tropicals and trying to get them to root. You need more heat right now, so if you're going to do any cuttings, that's what you're going to need to do. These are air layers, and I took one off a couple of days ago, opened it up, and there were no roots on there. But yet, the same plant right here, I took off air layers probably 6 weeks ago now, okay? But once the temperature started cooling off, my tree didn't, and this is outside, okay? Why? Because I want to see how far I can push this thing. So this has very little, if any, roots on it at all. When I touch, ouch, I just bumped into that spike there. When I touch that, I cannot feel roots, and it looks like there are, some light roots in here. I'm sure I'm yelling at you now because my mouth is really close, and I got a substantially large mouth. I don't really see any roots. And the other piece I took off the other day, I have it in a pot in a moist condition, and if it takes, it takes. If not, oh well. But I'm prepping my greenhouse right now, and I'll be covering it here shortly, so I'll put it inside and let it go from there. But I've had unrooted pieces go in, and they just sat there all season long in protected areas, of course, and then in the spring they took off like gangbusters. So I'm not worried. Plus I've got so many of them. Now I've got these long pieces here because I want to make a tree out of this tall tree form. Okay, so that's the idea there, in addition to me seeing how far into the season I could air layer the bougainvilleas. Now if I took cuttings right now, stuck them, I would have to protect them, not overwatering but not letting them dry out too much, and then the winter protection of keeping them in the greenhouse and heated. So how about that rock right there? That's awesome. I was thinking about cutting it up, but I like it so much, I just don't know, but I'll do something. Okay, so this right here is the same plant, but it is not part of this group. I took this cutting a long time ago and grew it, and of course I've got it on this rock, and it is coming along pretty good. I'm getting nice back budding, and of course I won't be able to see the roots exposed until next spring, but where some of the soil has washed off, I can see the roots being exposed, and they're growing nicely. So this to me is going to be a pretty nice affair. And here's my rock over bonsai. Root over rock, rock over bonsai. There's no roots around. It's not touching the bottom of the plant or the soil. It's just suspended. It's just suspended on the plant itself. So that's that deal. And again, this is, now believe it or not, this is a rooted cutting, and that's almost 2 inches at the base. Okay, sometimes I get impatient and I can't wait because I have a job to do with the main trunk, and so I'll have to lop off a larger piece than I normally would, because I really would have air layered that, but oh well. As a matter of fact, I just knew I'd forget some more of them, and these 3 right here I'm preparing, same plant, and in the videos you've actually seen these before. I've done some carving on that to take off the punky dead wood. I've done some carving on that, and because I'm at the end of the season, I just cleaned up the punky stuff because that holds moisture, and I don't want it to continue to eat away and to rot away the good wood over the winter because it stays moist. And believe it or not, I have to water over the winter time. So you got probably 1.5 inches on this red pot, 1.25 inches on that, and about 1.25 inches on this one. So cuttings, yep, they work. But you have to have the heat to go along with it, and it works for you. Let me just throw this at you because this is growing like gangbusters. That was a trident maple root, the bottom part, and then that was a scion. Well, actually, it was a whole tree that I just kind of fusion grafted onto the trident maple when it was on its parent plant. When the root was there, I just fused those two together, and then I cut it off in the springtime this past, well, at the beginning of this year, and now I have this tree where the shoot has grown almost to 4 feet. Now this is actually a fully grafted trident maple. I had 3 scions on this root. The root I fully cut off from the same tree there when I went to repot it this spring. I grafted on 3 pieces, but the 3rd piece was knocked over by a bird or something else hitting the container, which I had it covered over with plastic, and I staked the plastic out with some crepe myrtle pieces, and that's what this is. The crepe myrtle rooted. I knew it would, but that's why I'm the mad scientist, because I do stuff like that. So you have this branch coming over here, and then the larger one going up. Now, believe it or not, this is what I call the small leaf trident maple. This will reduce down to such a small leaf size that I keep this labeled and separate from any other trident. And I've got Narutus, I've got Angio Weeping, I've got Oblongata, you know, so this one I keep labeled and I keep it separate because it is different. And again, this leaf will reduce down even to that size of that one lug there of that trident leaf. And that right there is what, right at 1 inch, you know, my finger. Okay, so it will get really small. And but again, if you see a piece of root that you like on a plant, you don't have to just simply get rid of that. In the springtime now, if I get motivated come this December or so, when I intend on doing my Japanese green maple grafting, I may try a root graft also, you know, just to see. I've not done it. I don't hear people saying it. But again, that's why I call myself the mad scientist of bonsai. Why? Because I experiment. What's the harm? The idea here is to gain knowledge of what's possible. Again, translate it. If I see a root piece that I like, you know, with some interesting character, then I might graft it and use that. No sense in throwing it away. And I have a sense of accomplishment. I've actually had grafted, well, it was actually a fusion graft onto a root, and I ended up selling it, but I've got the pictures and I can think back on what I did and what I went through with it and enjoy myself like that. So at any rate, it's the fall. Very little color change right now. but you know me, I can't stop just that easily. I've been taking off air layers. Okay, here's one right here. Nice trunk, 3.5-inch base. That's the top right there out of it. There's another one that the stump here, I took the top around the back. Unfortunately, not all of my air layers are taken. This pot slipped down, it's callousing over, so it'll have to be reset, but I'm not going to take this away yet because the moisture and everything is helping this to stay in place. You see that one also, same there, it calloused over, not many roots, and so it has roots, and what I will do is take that off in the winter when everything goes dormant. That tree right there, this is actually the second season for that. The squirrels get up in there, the birds have actually built nests, and that's actually 2 pots on 2 different large branches. So there are roots up there, but they're sparse. So I'll wait until dormancy, then I'll cut the new air layers off, place them either in pots or in the ground, and stake them to a solid base, and we'll go from there. And I want to show you one other thing here about Sarissa, root over rock. But I want to show you one thing here about taking off air layers this late in the season. Now, you have trident maples, Japanese green maples, Zelkova, whatever you've got. And I just started this one. Okay, this, which I've done before, I took this out of its container and undid the root ball, and it was September. It's October now, so it was the last week of September that I did this and placed it on this rock. It's lashed pretty steady, but I just started pulling off the leaves to defoliate it. Didn't have time the other day, but you know, the best thing to do is to defoliate in the fall like this. In the spring or whatever, you can, especially if it's a larger air layer, but you don't really have to. Now here in the fall, and because I actually stress the plant more than normal, okay, these are air layers right here. You can see these 2 pots, I've got them in moisture. The leaves are still green and crisp, okay, because I did not disturb the air layer, the root ball on these, okay. That I did. So it's imperative or more beneficial to remove the foliage to give the plant a chance to recover, okay, and it's not having to do all of the work with the foliage on there. Now again, this was pretty much in normal state when I took it off. This is the incomplete air layer from the Bougainvillea. So this thing is about 6 feet tall, okay. The root mass, or the place where I put the sphagnum moss on, you know, it remained intact when I took it off and started potting it up. So no biggie, it'll either take or it won't. It's not the end of the world. But again, some more bougainvilleas that I've had in that pot probably like a month and a week or so, and you can see green leaves there. So right there, right there, right in there, that's that potato vine. I hate those things. But anyway, like I said, it's coming to the winter time. pretty soon fall is upon us and things are changing. There's another Bougainvillea root over rock right there. I've got the whole root ball wrapped on it. So all from the one same plant. So anyway, that is that, and have a good day.